You mentioned actively spreading AIDS?
There was a unit in from SIMA. One of the things was that we went into African countries.
And how was that done exactly?
Through inoculation.
Through vaccines?
Yeah, through vaccines.
That was a confession of how vaccines are used to spread infectious diseases across Africa. But what is their aim? What do they stand to gain? Why are they doing this?
To eradicate black people. You must understand the concept was that AIDS was a killer. It was incurable at that point in time, so it was led to believe that if you infected people, it was the quick, non-militaristic approach.
This is not another controversy about vaccines. This is the story of a people whose knowledge from the past came back to haunt them in the future. This is the story of how negligence became nemesis. I'll tell you how.
When you go on Google and type in who discovered vaccines, the first name that will pop up is Edward Jenner. Edward Jenner was a British doctor who became popular in 1796 by demonstrating that administering a mild cowpox virus can help create immunity against the deadly smallpox virus, which ravaged the world for 3,000 years before it was eradicated in 1980. But before Jenner, there was one Simios, an enslaved West African who taught his master the process of inoculation.
One Simios was an enslaved West African, possibly from the Akan people of Ghana. He was brought to North America in 1706 and was later gifted to Cotton Mather, a church minister who renamed him after one Simios, a 1st century AD slave mentioned in the Bible. In 1721, there was a smallpox outbreak in Boston, which infected and killed a lot of people. One Simios walked up to his master and told him that in Africa, where he came from, they had a technique of inoculation which prevented the spread of infectious diseases like smallpox. The term inoculation, vaccination, or immunization can mean the same thing.
Inoculation.
In a 1721 book published in Boston on the controversy of inoculation, it is confirmed that inoculation was long practiced in Africa among the sub-Saharan people. Many enslaved Africans in different colonies performed inoculation, even though they came from different regions in Africa.
So, Mather followed one Simios' medical advice and tried to popularize the technique. But his advocacy was soon met with a lot of resistance because the technique came from an African, a people deemed inferior.
Mather ignored all of the resistance and went ahead to inoculate himself, his family, and other people. After seeing the effectiveness of the inoculation procedure in 1722 and 1726 respectively, Boston and London performed trials on citizens, and on average, the mortality decreased from 17 to 2% of the infected population. Edward Jenner, who was later born in 1749, also benefited from the immunity the inoculation technique provided.
I'm not trying to discredit the works of Jenner. He did a lot of work to improve on the technique he met, and that is why we are human. We should improve. But from the story, you can see that Africans had the idea of vaccination before it became known in the Western world. I want you to remove that mindset that vaccination is a Western concept. Amid this pandemic, young people like you and I should not spend all our energies fighting against vaccination. We should be holding our leaders accountable to make the right investments in science, education, research, and indigenous solutions so that we can come up with our own vaccines. Because if we don't, we will keep seeing things like this. 2 French doctors discussing on live TV disrespectfully about coming to test vaccines in Africa on Africans.
Elles sont hautement exposées et elles se protègent pas. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
In 2015, over 500,000 women were allegedly sterilized in Kenya because of the vaccines received from the WHO and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. All of these are happening because we are not coming up with our own indigenous solutions. An African proverb says, knowledge is like a garden. If it is not cultivated, then it cannot be harvested. This means that if we do not make effort to acquire knowledge or make use of the ones we have, then we do not expect to make any progress. And yes, Africans need vaccines, but not vaccines coming from outsiders. We need vaccines made in Africa for Africans. And remember, like I always tell you, they say Africa is the future. Africa is the future. But I say, the future is now. We have to make hay while the sun shines. Thank you for watching.